The show as we continue our discussion about the fight against ISIL in Iraq. Joining me now is retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. He is a senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research. Tony, once again, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Good to be on.
As the former Iraqi ambassador just pointed out to us, we have some strange bedfellows in this fight against ISIL. I want you to take a listen to what General Martin Dempsey, he's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff here in the United States, what he had to say. Let's watch this.
The activities of the Iranians, the support for the Iraqi security forces is a positive thing in military terms against ISIL. But we are all concerned about what happens after the drums stop beating and ISIL is defeated, and whether the government of Iraq will remain on a path to provide an inclusive government for all of the various groups within it. We're very concerned about that.
So here we have Iran and the United States, longtime rivals, fighting on the same side against ISIL. How does that, in a way, complicate things for the U.S.?
Very much so, and I'm glad that General Dempsey caveated his positive remarks by the fact you've got to think about this as an over-the-horizon thing. I have no doubt that we can defeat ISIS militarily. With that said, you need to reestablish good governance, effective governance, to take the place of ISIL. Simply put, if you allow the Shia to continue to do what they're doing, I say that it's great that the Shia elements of the Iranians, and by the way, let's be clear here, my information is we have Iranian regulars manning the so-called Shia militia. So we've turned a blind eye to the fact that Iran as a nation is putting their military forces in. So that's okay as long as
now we've had Iranian advisors.
Yeah, well, there's more than that going on. I just talked to a former senior member of President Obama's staff, and there's more to it than that. We're looking the other way. With that said, that may not be a bad thing necessarily. It's what happens after. So the Sunni minority who were ripe for ISIS to recruit needs to be given some level of ability to not be reprised against. Let's remember now that as they go in, there's already reports of reprisals coming. So that's not a good idea. That's why we've put forward the idea at London Center of doing a NATO-type organization, a military strategy, chartered organization to not only work to defeat ISIS. We want to bring the Egyptians, the Jordanians, the Saudi Arabians in to help reestablish the safety of the Sunni, at the same time allow for, governance to come in. Let's remember, NATO was a civil military organization. It was not simply about the military. It's how you bring people together at a civil level. So we think that that was a workable format. Therefore, we got to look at how we can emulate that in this environment.
Wouldn't Iran look at that as an anti-Iran coalition? Oh,
absolutely. Let's be very clear on this. Yes. Before we went in and invaded Iraq, Iraq and Iran were essentially kind of equal forces opposing each other, Sunni, Shia. And so there's nothing wrong with that. It worked with us with the Soviet Union over the Cold War, the two opposing forces. We're saying that parity, basic strength parity, is not a bad thing. But we have to consider the fact that there's no Iraqi government left. And I think, as General Dempsey said, we have to be concerned about what happens regarding the Iraqi government being quote-unquote inclusive. Under Prime Minister Maliki, it was not inclusive, and that resulted in the Sunni minority being available for ISIS to recruit. So let's not go down that path again. Right. Let's do something different this time. And that's why we're saying let's look at a treaty organization as a potential off-ramp and allow the two sides to become essentially forces that can counter each other.
Getting back to the battlefield challenges right now, you have, as I pointed out, the Iranians and the United States fighting on the same side against ISIL, yet they're not talking to each other.
Right.
CIA Director John Brennan said, no, we don't talk to the Iranians. We do so, through a third party, which is the Iraqis.
Right.
I mean, that must be a logistical nightmare.
Oh, it is. And let's parse this. At the strategic level, at the national level, no, we don't talk to each other. But there's no doubt, at the tactical level, to avoid fratricide, you have commanders who have basically said, look, let's get past what Tehran and Washington says. Let's get together and make this work. So I think that's why you're going to see success, because of the sheer will of ability of our soldiers and their side as well to work together at the operational level. I think that's what's actually going on.
Now, you are talking to members of Congress about this.
We are. To be very clear on this, we're advising members of Congress, both Senate and House, and their staffs regarding the strategy that we think would work. I don't believe, as we discussed the authorized use of military force that President Obama sent over, is adequate. We need to look at this as a chess game and look one level deeper than what we're looking right now.
Is there a danger here? And I'm saying a danger because public opinion in the United States is against deeper involvement, but is there a danger here that the U.S. could get drawn deeper and deeper into this conflict?
Well, that's what we want to avoid. That's why we've put forward the strategy where we leverage those people, those militaries we've trained. Frankly, every military in the Middle East we're talking about who would join this NATO-type organization have been trained by us. Their leadership went through the Army War College, the Navy War College. They go through our academies. We've equipped them. So it's time that we actually leverage the investment we made. And we've worked with these folks for 40-some years. So I think it's time that we allow them to carry their own water. At the same time, we can give them logistical support, air support, special operations support, intelligence support to enable them.
But all these years of support, all these years of training, I mean, look at the Iraqi military right now. They are incapable of securing the country.
I think when we trained the military there, we sowed the seeds of its own destruction. Because of the fact that you had Sunni and Shia elements which were not essentially